Alright, hello everyone, and welcome to WWE Discussion. I'm your host and WWE Tuesday's Dougie Doug. In today's episode, we're going to be discussing SmackDown, December 16th, 2022 episode. So this episode of SmackDown, the big thing it had going for it was Roman Reigns making his first appearance since Survivor Series. Very curious as to, there was a lot of speculation as to what his appearance was going to be all about, and more importantly, what it meant for Sami Zayn, because it seemed to be suggesting that something huge was going to be happening for him. And with that, we'll go ahead and get right into the action, starting with LA Knight calling out Bray Wyatt, which honestly didn't seem like he learned his lesson the last time, although I guess considering the fact he didn't get kidnapped this time, I guess it worked out better for him than last time. Still, probably not the smartest thing to do. Nonetheless, this segment overall, it's newsworthy, because for the first time in weeks, something new happened. There's a new development. The story has been a slow-burning one for sure, and that's not always a bad thing. However, this story could certainly use something new to keep it interesting, and it got just that with the reveal that perhaps Howdy and Wyatt are not the same person, that they are in fact two different people. Now, this is Bray Wyatt we're talking about, so there's a possibility that he has found a way to manipulate perception and make it seem like he is not Howdy. I will say though, I do like the reveal of Howdy right here, and I'm very curious to see if it is indeed an actual another person, because there was all the talk about Wyatt 6, and is it going to be a thing, is it not going to be a thing, although hopefully not going forward is the laugh track, because honestly, I think if you're going to use a laugh track, you got to use Bray Wyatt's laugh track. I don't know. And if Uncle Howdy is another person, then maybe let's not use that laugh track, or if we do, maybe let's not overuse it like you did in this segment. Now, there might be some people who don't really care for this supernatural stuff in wrestling, but I enjoy it, and for what it's worth, I think it definitely changes the tone of the show. It's something different, something that's unique in of itself. There's nothing like it on the show. As for what the payoff will ultimately be, TBD on that. Still don't have a set date as to when the one-on-one match is going to happen, but Wyatt seems to have more of a command of this current characters. Whatever he's doing here, he seems to have more of a command of it than he did with his previous iteration, The Fiend. But then again, I don't think Vince McMahon gave him much control over The Fiend, so thankfully he has more control over this, and hopefully we can see that creative mind, what that creative mind has come up with. Intercontinental Championship match, Ricochet versus Gunther. So Gunther continued to add to his resume for Wrestler of the Year contention, while Ricochet added on to what has been a good year for him with a great championship clash that had the fans in Chicago and probably at home as well hanging on every near fall. The striking was great, the dynamic even better, and the story easy to follow. Both competitors threw everything they had at each other, but so it was simply a war of attrition who could outlast the other, and that would be Gunther. So this was a great bit of business, and a fine way to wrap up the SmackDown World Cup, and nice little cap off for Ricochet. Even though he didn't win the title, he still got to look great in defeat, which again, WWE should be employing this kind of strategy. It doesn't need to be a 5-star classic or a match of the year sort of thing, but just make both guys look good in the ring. After the match, Imperium would try to go on the attack against Ricochet, but Braun Strowman would deter him, so that keeps him involved in the ongoing story, or rather it moves the story now from Ricochet versus Gunther back to Strowman versus Gunther, which appeared to be an initial focus. So now that ongoing story is back on track, So next week, it was announced that WWE keeping up a holiday tradition. They are going to have a Miracle on 34th Street fight, which is again a yearly traditional match that they have, like the Trick or Treat Street fight. And Strowman and Ricochet will team up against Vinci and Kaiser in that match. Hopefully, there's no tagging in and out. Hopefully there's tornado rules. If there's not tornado rules, somebody needs to somebody needs to have a talking to whoever made that call, because that's honestly there's no point. If it's a street fight, it might as well be tornado rules. And then the show concludes with Roman Reigns making an appearance. I don't know why they always say return. I guess return's an easy word to say, but I don't know, you think about return in wrestling, I think for Roman Reigns, it's not really more of a return. I mean, he was only gone for, well, I don't know how many weeks it was, but I feel like him just making an appearance is probably a better way to phrase it. Nonetheless, basically Roman Reigns would close out the show with a promo where he did not remove the honorary from Sami Zayn's name, as Zayn was probably hoping and expecting. Rather, Reigns did point out that the Bloodline has a current Kevin Owens problem, or the current Kevin Owens problem that the Bloodline has. They had a previous one last year, Reigns and Kevin Owens and the Bloodline. That was a previous problem. Now they got a new one, so this is the new Kevin Owens problem that they have. Interesting enough that Zayn did kind of slip and say, like, oh yes, Zayn said that he's the only friend that Kevin has. Now, he was quick to correct himself, but I don't know, was that entirely accidental, or was there a little more behind it? Very subtle, but very well done. Now, Reigns reminded everybody of the tag team match that was announced earlier in the show, where it'd be Reigns and Zayn teaming up on a December 30th episode of SmackDown versus Kevin Owens and a partner of his choosing. And, well, WWE rather than let the internet run wild with the obvious choice of who it would be, instead decided to give it away, that being that John Cena would be the tag team partner for Kevin Owens. And also by competing on that episode, he keeps his 20-year streak of WWE matches alive. So that's a pretty good solid choice right there too, and it also plays back to the history between Cena and Reigns as well. So the intent was to make the December 30th episode of SmackDown must-see. Mission accomplished. Now, it was known before this show, I don't remember exactly when the news broke, but it has been known that Cena would appear on that episode. I don't remember if it was reported he was going to compete in an actual match, but nonetheless, him competing in an actual match is a game changer. He's involving himself in the ongoing storyline with the Bloodline between Owens, Zayn, and Reigns, so him being involved in it lends it even more credibility as probably the best thing in WWE right now, and it shines an even greater light on it. So good on Cena for finding some time to come back to WWE, to keep the streak alive, agreeing to work the match. It's all good right there. So WWE's got a couple weeks to build up to that, so that should be pretty good right there. Yeah, Zayn certainly had quite a disappointing look on his face, but he seemed to get over that pretty quickly. But it was about to see that WWE's kind of they got a little something going on with Sami Zayn, but it's a bit subtle at the moment, so you got to be like really paying attention to see it. And yeah, with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up this episode of WWE Discussion. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit that like button down below.